Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above, wishing you all an incredible start to this month of November, sending love and gratitude. In today's video, I'm going to recap last week's price action in the Dow Jones and how it's sending signals to the entire market of what's to come next. My last video that I put out covered the move I expected for this market during the solar eclipse, which was on October 25th, and that played out beautifully. So I'll be recapping all of that in today's video and of course getting into the charts of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP to share the setup for this week as we get closer to this upcoming lunar eclipse on November 7th, as well as reviewing this monthly close for October. And also just a reminder, the new month has started on Patreon. If you've been waiting to join, I appreciate your support. You can sign up today by visiting patreon.com/watersabove to join the Mastermind community or Trading Wolves membership. And we even have some limited spots available for the expansion group coaching. If you're somebody who wanted to work closer with me in that group coaching setting and get our 2 monthly group coaching calls, it also includes my new expansion mastermind course for free in this membership. So if you signed up for the Mastermind community or Trading Wolves membership, you'll get instant access to my weekly Red Pill podcasts. That's my technical analysis podcast to wrap up the week, and for me to review the altcoins that our community votes on. And by becoming a Patreon supporter, you'll also get access to our Discord server for our community group chat, so you can come hang out with the Wolf Pack. And you'll also unlock the biggest discounts available on my courses. The Patreon link can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below. And every membership is just an upgrade of the Mastermind community. So if you join Trading Wolves, you'll also get access to everything in Mastermind community. And if you join Expansion Group Coaching, you'll get everything in the 2 memberships below that. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. So let's get into some dates. We have a very important date today being the 1st of November. That's the 111 date in the 222 year. So welcome to November, everyone, even though November should actually be the 9th month, because if you just look at the way that the prefix of the word of each month goes, you know that October, for instance, oct is 8-sided polygon, octagon. Oct should actually be 8, so Nov should be 9, December or Deci should be 10, etc. So our months are completely discombobulated by this scam of the Gregorian calendar that we're all spellcasted under. And that's why here on this channel, I like to actually use the other calendars the best that I can, but with a focus on the Hebrew calendar, because for me, that has been the one that's been the most tied to finances. That's the one that for me has been able to help me the most in developing my own investment thesis. And anyone who's followed my work over the past year is well aware that we've been using that Hebrew calendar to note the Rosh Hashanah significance, as well as the 7-year sabbatical cycle of the Shemitah. So getting into that, this is a very important time frame in the market because we are heading towards this lunar eclipse on November 7th. And this is the date that I've been talking about for a very, very long time. But we're about 6 days out from this lunar eclipse, which has a 54 date numerology, as you can see right there. So this is the eclipse date, and that shows you 54 days left in the year. And the Gematria of lunar eclipse is giving you that 54 in full reduction. So this is all tied together. And another thing about this day today, the 11/1 date, is it will also be a 54 date numerology. So the market opened yesterday. We had a little bit of a pullback in the Dow, and then today we're seeing a little bit of a recovery. That's a typical start to a week, so we're going to see how everything goes. But thus far, we saw over this past weekend Saturday in particular, the crypto market started to wake up a little bit more in reaction to what happened with the Dow and the indices. And we've been talking about this very holistically for a long time now. I made a video over on my Patreon called The Jubilee Decoded. I've been, bringing that up here and there to people to just remind them to go rewatch that if they're a Patreon supporter, because there's so much information talking about the Dow and what's to be expected around that solar eclipse, which just happened. And then if you have yet to watch my last video, please go back and watch that, because we were talking about how we could expect bullish energy around that particular eclipse. And then as we get to the lunar eclipse, which is going to be on November 7th, that's when we should anticipate another pullback. So it could actually be bullish all the way up until the 6th of November or the 7th of November and then keel over there. Or we have a window of time just to consider, and I've been teaching this since I've introduced the lunar phase to the world with my technical analysis, sharing that we usually get a window of 4 to 5 days before up to 4 to 5 days after a full moon or a new moon, and that gives you the direction of the energy. And that when you talk about that specifically about eclipses, and I don't want to make this too complicated, but when you add eclipses to the equation, you really have this energy become noticeable. So the eclipses just enhance the volatility. That's my basic way of simplifying it for everyone. So moving on. Another date that I'm finding interesting is the 11/3 date, November 3rd. It's interesting because it connects to the eclipse date as well, being the 311th day. You could see this right here, November 7th being the 311th day of the year. And if you write this date internationally, November 3rd, it's the 311. So it's a popular band out there called 311, and there's been a lot of conspiracy as to why they named it that. But moving forward, just to kind of focus on the connection and the relationship between the numbers, I do find that interesting. And one more thing to also bring up about this date of November 3rd, which is a little bit more esoteric and focused on cryptocurrency, is this is the day leaving 58 days in the year. Now, this is also important because it's a Thursday. So Thursday is Thor's day, or the day of Jupiter, and we're getting 58 days left in the year, and this ties to XRP. So 58 days left in the year, and XRP is giving you that 58 in English ordinal. And like I just said moments ago about Thursday and the connection to Jupiter, well, Ripple equals 27 in Chaldean, and so does Jupiter equal 27 in Chaldean. This is very important because over the past year, specifically this Shemitah, I've been telling everyone how there's been a battle of energy between Saturn and Jupiter. And if you go back and study the mythologies and you see why the apex predator, the elite who run this world, do these rituals the way that they do, even with money and markets, you're going to be able to understand what's happening here. It is all ritualized and it's all based off of these mythological connections. You look at the world we're in today and it's all Greco-Roman aesthetic. It's all following that with admiralty law and law of the land, as well as, so you get into the court system with that. And then you start to see all the legislature, all the things that regard laws and control come back to Greek and Roman mythology. So remember that, because everything that we've been talking about with Ripple over the past year has come back to the SEC case, which has to deal with the United States government. And again, once you get into law, you start getting into these topics, these more deeper esoteric topics. So think about this name of the company. It's called Ripple, like the ripple effect, which has to deal with water. And we have admiralty law, maritime law, dealing with the oceans or the sea. All right. This isn't by coincidence. Okay. This is talking about a big theme that goes so deep that most of the people that only focus on the SEC case, they're disregarding. And that's why it's been difficult for them to be able to know where Ripple's going and when to expect it to really have its time to shine. So here on this channel, we're doing something very unique because we're breaking this down by a deeper code. And of course, in the year of 2021 through this transition into 2023, we've seen this Jupiter coin, which is tied specifically to water, and it has that water symbology. This is a coin that's in a legal battle with the government. Okay, think about what I just said before this. Rewind, take notes. It's very, very important because it's going to set a lot of people free in their understanding of what's going on with Ripple and the government and SEC and the new blockchain-based quantum system that will be probably take some time to develop, a lot more time than some people could imagine. And it's that lack of patience that's been holding people back from making big breakthroughs in their own investment thesis. Once you start to make these connections, you're going to be able to develop a much more enhanced investment thesis, build portfolios that are much more dialed into your personal financial situation, and you won't just be blindly following hopium on Twitter or YouTube. Speaking the truth here, I know it's spicy, I know it's not easy to swallow, but the truth sets you free. So moving on, there's a connection here with this specific date of the 3rd of November with Ripple. I'm really interested to see how this is going to play out, because when we go to the charts, we're actually going to see XRP was prematurely bullish before everything else kind of caught up to it. So XRP led the market in late September during the Shemitah, while a lot of other coins were going in the opposite direction. They were entering downtrends. Okay, think about that. There was an inverse correlation of price. And I told everyone about this and the significance of this because of the connection of mythologies with Jupiter and Saturn. All right. Shemitah is the Saturn year. It's the year of Saturn. And at the end of the Shemitah is when Saturn comes to harvest. So you see how around this time frame, XRP was insanely bullish, literally moving into the end of the Rosh Hashanah date, while everything else was kind of taking a completely different energy on. And anything tied to Jupiter around that time was actually in a process of recovery. It's pretty interesting how this goes, but we've been talking about this since February when I released that metaverse decode and talking about that big ritual that happened with Facebook, Metaverse, Mark Zuckerberg, and the Metaverse stock, which had a historic crash. So let's move on to another date that I think will have some significance, which is the 5th of November. And one of the connections here is also that it has a 58 date numerology. So this gives us a little bit of a window of time. And because it's a Saturday, we know that crypto will be trading alone. So just consider that with what we were talking about with the number 58 tied back to XRP being that 58 in English ordinal. And I would be looking for a window of energy there. We are getting very close to this eclipse when we talk about November 5th, though, and remember what I said, this is more a bearish time frame to anticipate within 5 days and after 5 days. So that energy could last past November 11th. And this 11/11 date numerologically has a huge significance. It's the 11/11/222. Now, let's get into one last thing, which is the theme of the number 2. And it's because of this whole year that we're in of 222. And we were in the Hebrew year of 5782, which gives you 22. A moment ago, you could see XRP equals 22. Again, all part of this ritual. But the theme of the number 2 this year specifically matters so much with this date of November 5th because it's 2 days before that eclipse. So it's showing you this window of energy is something to definitely be considerate of. Now, this effectively makes the window of the 5th through the 9th being 2 days after something to keep in mind. We could probably have a very volatile next couple of weeks just because of how we saw the Dow Jones rocket to the upside, but we haven't seen much of anything else have that sort of reaction. We did not see that in the NASDAQ. We did not see that in the S&P. And we've barely seen Bitcoin move at all. Even XRP has been pretty stagnant around the mid 40 cent region. So think about this, guys. Like the Dow was just isolated on this pump. And I'm really glad that I shared that information before it even happened, because that was something that I've been talking about for at least 6 months now with that Jubilee Decoded video. So one other thing to think about with this 11/9 date, it is the 9/11 date. It's just in another format. But let me show you something that I'm really interested in, which is the fact that this day of November 9th leaves 52 days left in the year. And the word cryptocurrency actually equals 52 in Chaldean. That's definitely a sign there. So I'm wondering how this is all going to play out, especially because this is a Wednesday, which is Miércoles, the day of Mercury, and Mercury has everything to do with finances. And let me get even more esoteric with you guys right now and go to the periodic table. So speaking of the number 52, I brought up this element tellurium, the 52nd element. And if you actually look at where this name is derived from, the Latin word for earth, okay, tellus. And let me just show you. I'm typing this into the Gematria calculator, but what matters most is the connection with Earth and having that number 52. So this is like insane. You know, you think about how this is the 52nd day left in the year. The 52nd element literally translates to Earth, which also equals 52. And that's it's all coming kind of into this deeper connection. This is where it gets mind-blowing. This is the 17th date numerology. Earth gives you 17 in Chaldean, and Tellus also gives you 17 in full reduction. This is the kind of stuff that really blows me away, but it shows me that there's this interconnectivity that's happening here that is beyond human comprehension, and no human could have ever predetermined or designed it as this way. I mean, we looked through multiple languages here. We took the Latin and we took English. We brought in a planet or a realm, as we should call it, and then how we have that number 52 coming back to cryptocurrency. And remember what crypto means. Crypto comes from kryptos, and kryptos means secret in Greek, or hidden, something that's esoteric. It's something that's actually hidden. I love learning things like this, and I love seeing it all unfold. And I'm looking towards this November 9th through November 11th date to definitely be somewhat of a pivot energy. If I had to give you guys how I'm personally perceiving all of this, I would say it's more of a pivot. Remember, this 10th date is the 1-year anniversary of Bitcoin hitting its all-time high of 69,000, and that was on the 314 date, the pi day. 3.14 is pi. So this last connection here, discussing the November 7th date, we're just going to breeze on through this. We know 11.7 is connected to Bitcoin, Bitcoin being 11.7 in reverse ordinal, and that date is the 11.7 date. This is all wrapped around that time frame. So the next 2 weeks in this market are definitely going to be spicy. This upcoming Sunday, I will actually be dedicating my next Red Pill podcast to the lunar eclipse and just focusing solely on that. That podcast will be available for Patreon supporters at patreon.com/watersabove, like I told you in the intro. So if you're interested in that, you could sign up. And while you're waiting for the upcoming lunar eclipse Red Pill podcast, you can check out my recent Red podcast that I just released this Sunday. It was packed with information, probably like an hour and 15 minutes long. So if you're interested in that behind the scenes content, you know, that's really where I have my time to shine. I have that long format video of doing that podcast every week. And because of the importance of these last 2 eclipses, I've been putting a lot of effort into making sure I'm thorough as possible. And one other thing is I will be sharing when I'm personally rebuilding my portfolio, and any time that I'm going to be buying, I'm going to be sharing the coins I'm buying, and I'm going to be sharing the times that I buy them. So whenever I'm making active investments, I will be sharing that on the Discord, which is again connected to the Patreon. So lots of value out of that membership. Let's get into the Dow Jones, because I just want to show you guys a couple things that have unfolded since my last video came out. So here we're on the US 30. And we had a fib pulled from here around the 16th of August when we hit 34,300 points to this swing low here. We're in a logarithmic chart, and this fib is pulled with log settings. Now you can see that we blasted straight into this 786, which is the top of the golden pocket. And we had a little bit of a 3-day window of struggle at the bottom of the golden pocket of the 618. That's very, very normal. And that was about around the time frame of my last video, I believe, or it was leading into this. It was somewhere around this breakout. So I was sharing how the next upside target would be somewhere around the 618. And a thing that I teach in my Mastermind course and my advanced trading course and everything else, so anyone who's new here, you should know this, is once we start trading multiple days into that golden pocket, we typically like to smash into the top of it. It's a very normal thing. So I marked off this 33,500 area as something to keep in mind. But let me zoom out and just show you this descending trend line. This trend line here is showing you clean rejections after a pretty well spaced out amount of time. like the space between this rejection, that rejection, and that rejection are equidistant. And it looks like we're coming into another approach of this trend line somewhere around 33,300 points. I think that that's in play, you know, and around the time that we hit this, we have some wicks that might overextend on that day plus the rejection. So this could all be in alignment as well with an overbought RSI. Just keep that in mind, guys. Like, I don't think the stock market's just going to keep recovering from here, especially in this environment we're in right now. This is a relief rally. It's a relief rally that I've been telling you guys is something to prepare for. And it was more than likely to happen around that solar eclipse. So you can see the Dow has responded very nicely to that. The NASDAQ is still kind of sleeping and the S&P is looking a little bit better. So here we are in the S&P. We've started to break above the 236. That's very nice to see because that's a difficult level to break through after you've had a larger correction, as we can see, getting into oversold. Now that we've tapped into oversold and we're having this little bit of a rebound, I mean, at least the 0.5 fib is potential, but that would take a lot of energy, a lot of volatility to kick in into this upcoming lunar eclipse. So this all is a big part of it. And you could see this trend line right here is almost identical to what's going on. And of course, I know people are going to be like, well, you know, they're the indices, but that's not necessarily how it goes. Like the NASDAQ is 100 companies, the Dow is 30, S&P is 500. So NASDAQ is mostly tech sector, right? They are actually quite different. And although their bigger energy and volatility moves are somewhat similar, they're not necessarily similar in the percentage gains or drops, but what I'm trying to say here is the structure or the fractals all look very similar. Right now, we can see the Dow is definitely isolated where it's having a really nice relief rally. And that to me is giving me a signal that we need to prepare to de-risk. If you're somebody who is in profit because you've built positions around that, if you've been building positions recently, we might roll over again. And again, this is not financial advice, isn't me telling people what to do. But when we made that XRP call out about the 55 cents, we saw what that allowed for people to, take advantage of. And since then, we haven't actually returned back to that target. I remember before that breakout even happened, I was telling people about 55, 56 cents. I got a lot of pushback on that. People were saying, no, it's going to keep going higher. Well, here we are, man. So we're trying to look at this without emotion. We're trying to navigate this calmly. And as analysts, sophisticated analysts, where we have a combination of the esoteric, which is the Gematria and Numerology astrology, and then we have our technicals. You combine all of that together and you get a very, very holistic system that allows you to be developing a skill so that you can take action for yourself. So moving forward, let's just quickly look at Bitcoin and see what's going on here. So I shared this little W breakout potential. I mean, we do have a local W here, but there is a clear neckline. And what we can see in this W pattern is that we've actually broken a daily above the 26th of October. We broke a daily close above there and since have been treating this neckline as a support. That's a very bullish thing. And even yesterday we back tested it. On that back test, we're looking decent today, and this could end up being a micro bull flag. That micro bull flag could have a continuation target somewhere into that 22.5, and that would just be indicative of the measured move of the W. So in plain English, somewhere gravitating into 22,500 for Bitcoin is very possible before this lunar eclipse. So keep that in mind. Now, another thing is if we're going to start closing dailies below this level, below 20,000 specifically, I would anticipate coming right back down to 19,000, just swiping down right back into that overall support level. So if I was to show you how clean the 19,000 level has been as a support, I'll just be bringing it right there. And you can see that on all of these touch points over here, we got 1, 2, 3, and then coming right back down to it, and then trading at least almost a month and a half, all on $19,000. So that's really important, guys. You should be looking at these horizontal trading levels more than you look at patterns. All right. I know new traders, they get really caught up in looking at patterns, but once you start to actually identify these horizontal trading ranges, you'll become a much better analyst. So 19,000 on the downside and then a push to 22.5 is definitely in the cards. If we start to close dailies above 22.5, then we naturally have 24.5. This would be probably something more to anticipate maybe in December, like around the December new moon. But that would be really interesting to see that all play out. So let's take it 1 week at a time and just see how this plays. Ultimately, there would be more likelihood to the downside after up to 5 days after the November eclipse. So going back to the eclipses that we've seen in the past, we know that these can drag out for a lot longer than we would like. But because the market has been so volatile lately, what I personally expect is a big, fast move that will lead to a big, fast reaction on the other direction. So if we get a sharp sell-off, I think there will be a knee-jerk reaction to a relief rally. That to me is more than likely to happen. I think this slow, boring, arduous sideways trading for crypto is getting close to a conclusion. So I see our next move being a decision-making move. That would be my way of summarizing what I anticipate next. Either it's going to be a noticeable drop and break of support, or it's going to be a short-term quick drop followed by the last bear trap to lead you to an automatic rally, which that automatic rally time frame could take at least 6-7 months. And you could go back to this moment here. If you just look at the way that this recovery happened for Bitcoin, nobody was anticipating it. It did happen pretty damn slow. When you look at it in real time, like if you took from December all the way to the top peak, that was almost 200 days. So think about what I just said. I'm not just making this shit up off the top of my head. I'm actually looking at it based in prior cycles. This was even more arduous. If you look at this recovery, this was a really slow recovery that just kept going for literally 800 days. And there was these big, significant, choppy pullbacks along the way, but ultimately Bitcoin held structure on a reversal. It continued higher lows and higher highs. So guys, this is a time where recoveries are very sneaky. They're very sneaky, and you could have these large, corrections to the downside with these sharp buybacks, and no one's going to anticipate it. So think about everything I'm saying. I'm really trying to look at this open-mindedly, but I do have an idea of the direction. I do have a very generalized, way of explaining it because I'm speaking to so many different people across the world. I'm trying my best to not get too complicated and simplify when needed. But again, like I've said, my crypto mastermind course teaches all the beginner level basics. So if you're somebody who's interested in learning more about my strategies, how to actually learn all of this language and technical analysis and know how to combine the Gematria with all of it, that's an opportunity for people who want to up their education and invest in themselves by getting that crypto mastermind course. Let's move on to Ethereum. But just final note is Bitcoin holding this neckline is totally normal. Breaking up and actually solidifying a close above the prior local close of 20,800, let's just call it 21,000. Then I anticipate a swing up to 22.5. And then on the downside, if we start closing below 20,000, I see us moving right down to 19,000. Wicks are welcome, but for the most part, probably holding that support. And then if we get really close to this eclipse, that's when I could see 17K in the cards and potentially even lower. We just have to see where the buying pressure is if we get any short-term pullbacks. Now here we are in ETH, and ETH is looking very interesting. Let me actually show you this one chart because it looks a little cleaner. Look at this. So it's a very odd trend line, but I think it could be very helpful, especially for newer analysts. You can see I drew this trend line with showing all of these rejections here. And then once we broke above the trend line, we back tested it, confirming it as a support, no longer a resistance. And then here again, confirming it a second touch, but then we broke through it. And since breaking through it, we've actually recently come right back to it and got another rejection with almost going on 4 candle closes in a row of lower highs on the overall price. That's a sign, this is a very good trend line to be considerate of in the short term. And we got stopped out around 73, 74 RSI and slightly overbought. We know this is crypto. Crypto can go to 95 RSI in the daily easily. But when we have these trend lines coming in this current energy in the market, plus a continuation of a downtrend where we have a high, lower high, lower high, this is not necessarily anything to start a party over, is what I'm trying to say. We have a low, and even lower low on this wick, if you want to think about that. What I would like to see is a close above 1,800 for ETH, and then we could consider, maybe a blip up to 2,000. But other than that, this is just another lower high. So don't get excited right now. This is not anything special. It's very normal price action. Another thing to say is we have a clean horizontal support level somewhere around 1250. So I would like us to be looking at that for sure, because that 1250 area tells me that if this rejection wants to come down, it's probably going to come down straight to that area. And that would not be weird, because if you look at where 1250 is across the board, it's just back testing all of these rejection on daily closes. So we have coming into this level, multiple rejections, a couple rejections, and then finally we broke out of it. And since it's been about, maybe I'd call it about 30 days, one full month of hanging out on that level. So it's a significant level. Consider 12,050 to be a retest zone for ETH. And if we start to close below that, you'd have another level to the downside, which is your horizontal range right there at $1,000. And that makes a lot of sense because $1,000 is a psychological level. Okay, so we could play into this range again, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. If Bitcoin wants to start breaking below 17,000, then that's when we're going to see our sub $700 ETH. In the meantime, seeing daily closes above 1,800 would probably be another swipe to 2,000 on the upside. Let's go to XRP. XRP is doing pretty much what I just explained with Ethereum, but just on a topside level. And again, this trend line is playing beautifully. We've been having it go in since the the yearly high for XRP back in April 2021. We talk about this in almost every video, so I'm not going to talk about that today, but we just keep snaking around this area. It's amazing, right? This trend line is insane. Now we have this horizontal trading range to the top side. It's showing me that if we start to close dailies below 44, I do think a swipe to 38 is very possible. And again, nothing changes if we start closing dailies above 53. A move up to 58 to 61 cents is highly likely. That most likely will take either Bitcoin to break above 2,200 or to see ETH get close to 2,000. Right now, that would be what I would anticipate to see XRP get into the high 50s. So I should be leaving it at that because there's really nothing new to say about this XRP analysis. This coin, it's very pumpy dumpy, where it likes to make some big moves very quickly, and then it gets stuck in a trading range, and then it'll come right back. So I just want people to be patient on this one at this time. Let this play out. This is not a good place to be opening up trades on XRP because it's in no man's land, especially with this lunar eclipse right around the corner. You don't want to be getting into trades when you're in a very precarious zone like what we're seeing with XRP at this very moment. So chill out, be calm, take this time to develop your own investment thesis. When any big move comes, this way you could respond to this market instead of reacting to this market. Be a wolf, follow the moon, don't be a bull or a bear. They're all getting slaughtered. So with that being said, I appreciate every single one of you. Again, welcome to the month of November. Let's make this an incredible month. I'm sending you all love. I appreciate every single one of you. And I'll be catching some of you in this upcoming Red Pill podcast that I'll be releasing on Patreon this Sunday. It will be dedicated to this lunar eclipse. So for those of you that are interested in that, patreon.com/watersabove. And I will be sharing updates with everyone over on Discord very, very soon. I appreciate every single one of you. Much love.